Hey gang, it's Jeff with missionmusician.com, and today I want to do just a very quick video of mastering a song. I'm going to master the song that we used in the How to Mix a Song Using Only Slate Plugins video series. If you haven't seen that, you can just go to my YouTube channel. And before we get started, I want to talk about a couple of things. First, I am not a professional mastering engineer in the sense that I have formal training in mastering. I do get paid to get mastered, so technically I am, excuse me, a professional mastering engineer, but I don't have formal training of it. Basically, my mastering skills were born out of the necessity to be able to master my own tracks and my clients' tracks. So I don't have any formal training on mastering, so I just want to be upfront about that at the beginning of this video. And I don't want to insult any professional mastering engineers out there who have taken courses and really honed their skill and have several $1,000s of equipment and, you know, are mastering in a professionally tuned room. There's something to be said about a professional mastering engineer. They have a way of doing magic with tracks. But all I'm looking to do is bring my track up to commercial level, EQ it along with the reference track to make sure that it's kind of feeling the same, and that's what we're going to do. Secondly, I would never master a song that's part of an album on its own. In other words, this song is part of an album, and what I would do if I was really mastering it is bring in all the other tracks and master it along with those other tracks so the album would have a cohesive feeling to it. Now, mastering isn't just about EQ and compression. It's also about song order, making sure the songs flow right, song spacing between the songs, making sure they flow right into each other. So mastering isn't just about enhancing tracks. It's also about setting up the album, okay? And I go into a lot more depth and detail than what I'm going to do here in my course over at www.missionmusician.com called Home Studio Mastering. Now, I'm not a salesy type person. I don't like to push products on anybody, so I'm just going to mention it once. If you want more of a detailed look at mastering, I cover it really well in this course. The course is only like $35. If you want to get it, great. If not, just use what I'm going to show you here and practice doing that. So I have a reference track here, and I brought the volume of it down, and I've actually cut it off. I don't want to get too many vocals in the song, and I don't want to actually play too much of this song because I don't want any copyright situation going on, because I do not own this song. This is a professional band, a professional produced and sold album, so that I do not own. So one of the biggest problems young engineers have when they go to master their track and they bring in a reference track is they immediately feel frustrated and deflated. What you have to take into consideration when you are using reference tracks is, first, the album or the song that you're using as a reference track was recorded in a professional studio with a great sounding room, professionally mic'd instruments with high dollar microphones, preamps, board, going to a expensive tape machine. All right, then it is mixed in a professionally designed and treated room through high-end speakers, high-end mixing board, high-end outboard gear, all that stuff. And then it is mastered by a professional mastering engineer in a professionally tuned room using tens of thousands of dollars of gear to master it. And your track or my track was recorded in a basement or home studio, probably with cheap mics, with just a standard interface, and mixed in a bedroom studio and mastered in a bedroom studio. So you can see our back is against the wall to just begin with. But it's so important to use reference tracks, because if you don't, you're just mixing to your own ears. And I don't trust my own ears. I can't mix or master without a reference track. This is a guideline. This is what I use to get my mix sounding great or my master sounding great. I have to compare it to the professionals out there who are using the high-dollar studios with the high-dollar gear. So don't get discouraged. Use it as a challenge. Don't get deflated when you hear your song against a professionally mastered and mixed and recorded song. Use it as a challenge to do everything you can to get your mix or master to that level. Now, when I mixed this song, I was mixing with a reference track, so it's already kind of close. I'm just going to do some small tweaks to make it a little bit better. So let me explain the signal chain that I got going on. So here is the song that we're going to master right up here, and it's going into the sub master where I have some effects here. And then it's going out to the master. Now the reference track is right here, and it's going out to the master. It is not going to the sub master, okay? Because I don't want these anything from my mastering chain applied to the reference tracks. So now I'm not going to use what I normally use to master, and I have some special plugins that I use for mastering that I'm not going to go into detail here. One of them is Isotope Ozone. Another one is what else do I use? I use a soft clipper. I use different EQs, and I go into all that stuff in my home studio mastering course. I'm not going to go into it here. I'm just going to do a quick mastering tutorial video on how I would just master this song as a single using basically stock plugins. I don't usually use stock plugins when I master because I like the mojo that some of the other plugins I use gives it. But I just want this to be a super quick tutorial, and it's already getting longer than what I anticipated. So excuse my rambling. Let's get started. So what I've done is I've leveled matched these. So I'm going to play this track here. Oops. All right, so they're about the same level. Now let me try to explain to you what I'm listening for when I'm listening to reference tracks. It's different for each phase. I use reference tracks in recording, and I use reference tracks in mixing. What I'm doing when I'm listening to reference tracks in mixing is I'm listening to where the snare drum's at, where the kick drum's at, how loud the vocal is compared to the guitar, just all that type of stuff. When I'm listening to a reference track and mastering, that is not really at all what I'm listening for. I am listening for the overall EQ spectrum balance. Is my mix brighter? Is my mix darker? Is my mix have too much low end compared to the master or the reference track? That is what I'm listening for. I'm listening for the tonal qualities, not necessarily the level of, the vocal or the kick drum or the snare. Because quite honestly, in this song is the mastering track. The snare is like really loud, and it works for that track, but my snare's not as loud, and I didn't want my snare to be as loud. So I'm not listening for that type of thing. I'm listening for the tonal quality of the overall track, if that makes sense. So let's get started. What I'm going to do first is what I normally always use is VCC. It's just a console emulation from Slate. And I'm just going to leave these settings where they're at. She loves Jesus Christ. She loves with all her mind. She travels around the world without a penny to her name. She knows that he provides. All right, so I like what that's doing. So that's simple enough. Next is what is going on here? Next is the VTM, Slate's virtual tape machine. And when I master, I normally like to leave it at the half-inch setting. Sometimes I'll play around with this. And let's just listen to what this does. She loves Jesus Christ. She loves with all her mind. She travels around the world without a penny to her name. She knows that he provides. That she lives by faith, not eyes. That someday just maybe All right, now we are adding gain with these two plugins, and it's just the nature of the beast. So I like what both of these are doing. I'm going to listen to the reference track and then listen to my track and just listen for the tonal qualities really quick. What I'm feeling like is, just from that little tiny comparison, is my mix is too bright. And that happens a lot with me. I like a lot of high-end energy. But what happens as you crank up the volume, it starts to become harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to about 5K and take it down about 1 dB. And another thing that I want to mention is when you're mastering, you want to deal in small increments, all right? And what I mean by that is 0.5 dB, 1.0 dB, or 1.5 dB. If you're going over 2 dB on your boosts or cuts on your EQ, then maybe you want to go back and remix some things, because we're affecting the track as a whole, as opposed to individual tracks. So small moves add up to a big change. All right, so let me listen to what that did really quick. She loves Jesus Christ. She loves with all her mind. She travels around the world. All right, so that's taming the high end a little bit. I'm also feeling like there's a little flub somewhere way down low. Probably in the, I don't want to mess with my kick drums. Probably in the 40 to 30 range. She loves Jesus Christ. She loves with all her mind. She travels around the world without a penny to her name. She knows that he... And I'm also hearing something in this range that's bothering me a little bit. Let me listen to this again really quick. Now, granted, this is only acoustic guitars playing, so this really probably wouldn't be a great reference track for this song, but I couldn't think of anything right off the top of my head, so I'm just going to use it. I'm feeling like the guitars are a little bit maybe too pointy in this range right in here. I'm not sure. Let's just poke around here really quick. And that feels better to me already. Now, I think I'm going to back these down just a little bit more so can hear if it's making the right difference. Let's bypass this. Now, you're probably thinking, oh man, that sounds a lot duller. Well, it's not a lot duller. To me, it's sounding warmer without the harshness. And I am going to back this back up just a little bit. It's warmer sounding to me. And when I mix, I almost always, probably said this, but I almost always tend to mix a little brighter on the individual instruments. It's just the way I mix. It's a habit I try to break, but when I'm listening, as I'm mixing, I'm always thinking, man, that can be brighter, or that can be brighter. The guitar can be brighter. Like, for example, in this song, I can already tell, and I would probably go back and remix this, but the acoustic is mixed way too bright. It is way too cutting, and it's kind of annoying me a little bit. So that's what this cut's kind of taking care of. And this is kind of getting rid of the kind of the harshness of the cymbals and a little bit of the pointiness of the snare. So they're just small cuts, but these small cuts add up to a lot. I'm going to back this, back down. I don't want too much low end gone. So let's one more time listen to this. Yeah, so the snare is sitting back in the mix now, whereas before it was a little bit pointy and poking through a little too much for me. All right, so quickly let's set up our EQ or our compressor here, and I am going to crush the crud out of this to find the right spot for the compressor, and I kind of walk through what I'm doing in my free bundle. If you haven't got it, go get it now at www.missionmusician.com. Absolutely free, where I show how I use compression and how I use EQ and how I use Pro Tools, and there's 2 free ebooks, so go get that. If you don't have it, it's free, no strings attached. And let's I'm gonna really crank down on this so I can hear what the compressor is doing. She loves Jesus Christ, she loves with all her mind, she travels around the world without a penny to her name. She knows that He provides, that she lives by faith, not eyes, that someday just maybe I can live a life. All right. So what I'm watching is over here, I'm getting about 1 to 2 dB of compression on the loudest part of the song, which is exactly what I want. Got a slow attack, a fast release. I could probably back this release up just a little bit. She loves Jesus Christ, she loves with all her mind, she travels around the world without a penny to her name. She knows that He provides, that she lives by faith, not eyes, that someday just maybe I can live a life just the same. All right, and that feels about right to me. And then the very last thing that we need to do is bring the song up to commercial volume. Now, before I do this, what I need you to do is turn your volume down on your, especially if you're wearing headphones, please turn your volume down. But turn your volume down anyway if you're listening to studio monitors, because the volume is going to get louder, and I don't know exactly how loud it's going to get at the moment, so I don't want to hurt your ears. So please, please listen to me and turn the volume down. All right, so I'm just going to use a stock limiter that comes with Pro Tools. I'm going to set the ceiling at negative 0.4 is fine. I normally do around anywhere between negative 0.3 to negative 0.5. And I'm just going to get about 3 dB of gain reduction on the loudest parts. All right, so again, please turn down your speakers. Here we go. So now we're up, should be close to commercial volume. Let's see. I'm going to bring this back up to its normal volume. So again, if you haven't turned down your volume, please do so. Okay, so that is really close to commercial volume, and you don't have to get exactly the exact same volume. What we're looking for here is we don't want our song to be a distraction if it's set in a playlist of commercial songs. So if you're listening to a bunch of commercial songs and then all of a sudden your song comes in and you notice that the volume's a lot quieter, that can be a major distraction, and it won't sound as good as the other songs. So we need to bring it up to commercial volume, excuse me, to compete with commercial songs, basically. So it sounds in the same loudness, sort of. And so Maxim is a good limiter. This isn't what I normally use, but you can see it brought it up to volume just fine. And we had about 2.7 gain reduction on the loudest peaks. So that is probably what I would call good and ready to print. Trying to think if there's anything else that I want to go over. I think that is going to be it. So let's listen really quick from this point on. And I think I'm gonna bypass the EQ and compressor to see if that's making a difference. She loves Jesus Christ, she loves with all her mind, and she travels around the world without a penny to her head. She knows that He provides, that she lives by faith, not eyes, that someday just maybe I can live a life just the same. You know what? There is something else that I like to do, and I normally do it. I normally do it through Isotope because I don't really like what Deverb does, but I may as well show it here really quick. And that is, I like to put a little bit of ambience on the whole track. All right. She loves Jesus Christ, she loves with all her mind. And that is why I don't like doing it on here, because it messes with the volume. She loves Jesus Christ, she loves with all her mind. And the reason why I like to add reverb at the end of, in other words, as I'm mastering, is because to me, it glues the track together a little bit, and it gives the impression that all of the musicians are playing in the same room together, when in fact that's usually never the case, especially in home recording where, excuse me, we're recording drums in a basement or a living room or a bedroom or whatever, and then we're using amp simulation for guitar and direct in with bass. So it doesn't sound, when you're mixing, it doesn't sound like everybody's in the same space. Adding just a touch of reverb, and this isn't a good example, so I am not even going to use this. You can see me do that on the home studio mastering course if you want. This just didn't work out how I thought it would, but that's the reason why I do it, is to give a cohesiveness to the tracks, to make it sound like the musicians were all playing in the same room at the same time together. So that is it. I'm going to wrap up. If you haven't got the free bundle from missionmusician.com, please visit the site. It is absolutely free. All you got to do is click the free bundle button on the home page, and you will be sent the links to download 3 video tutorial series, and one on EQ, one on compression, one on Pro Tools, and 2 free ebooks. Okay, and then please subscribe to my channel if you like these type of videos. I've gotten a few subscriptions over the last, few weeks, and so I'm trying to decide if these videos are worth posting, if people are digging them, or if I'm just wasting my time here doing it. But I love to show people how to do this type of stuff. So if you like this, subscribe. Please feel free to leave a comment below if you'd like. I generally respond to them. And that is all. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.